Hello, Yushman. Okay, I'm gonna go get some tea and then we're gonna start. Hello. Hello, everybody. Tea's brewing. Do-do-do-do. Okay, so what are we doing here? How's the project going? It's going well. um, so yesterday I did a stream, but it was kind of, I don't know, low energy, and I didn't do much progress. I mostly stared at the code. Uh, but today I'm feeling more energized, and also I think that whatever like philosophical questions I stumbled upon yesterday, it's fine now. Now today we can do more coding, and we can actually make some good progress towards proper client server synchronization. Um, then what else happened? Well, we have two new contributor ready issues. One is storing client passwords securely. Um, you know what? Let's change this from passwords to secrets. Oh, I was trying to select the word as if this was Helix. Store client secrets securely. Save. Um, so what is the idea here? The idea is that right now we are storing passwords in a plain text file, but OSs have stuff like macOS has keychain, Windows has credentials manager, Linux has stuff. The idea is that using these services, it would be slightly harder for a malicious application to steal your secrets. Right now, pretty much every single program that I'm running would be able to snoop that information. Uh, I believe, I might be wrong, but I believe that with macOS, you could probably sign the application and somehow like make it so that a given application has, like, if you're not the application, then you're not going to be able to access its keychain. I'm guessing other applications could probably try to fake this. I'm guessing, I don't know how the whole story works. I'm guessing on macOS, there are ways to use an Apple developer account to prevent other applications from uh, kind of disguising themselves as your application. Windows might have something similar. Linux, no, I guess. So in any case, it's nothing crazy, but it's like a at least minor added layer of security, which would be good to have. And it shouldn't be too much effort. Can use the TPM. I don't know what's the TPM. Is that the computer? Is that the thing? Oh, that's the thing that Windows wants. Yeah, but even then, when it can use the TPM, but how so? Like, because on Linux, like my question is, could somebody else build another application that kinda tries to identify itself as a Awebo server and then thus can access the Awebo server keychains? I think that on macOS and Windows, if we were to use um, their paid services for getting for signing the application, then the answer would be no. In any case, so this is the thing, and then the other issue, the other token, sorry, the other contributor ready issue is um, is basically support token authentication. So the idea is we don't store passwords anymore on the client, but instead, whenever you log in the first time with a password, the server sends you a authentication token, and we store the authentication token. This layer of indirection is useful because, um, well, I guess in applications, in more complicated applications, then you can restrict the permissions that the token has, while the password, in a sense, has implicitly like the maximum level of privileges. Um, in an application like Awebo, I don't think the token. I don't think the token, like, I don't think we can have like permissions tied to tokens, I don't think it would make sense in our case, but it kind of makes it handier to at least kick out other clients because you can do so without having to change the password. So I would say this is not critical for us, but again, it's another, I would say, minor good improvement to have. And that's another thing, contributor ready issue. In Discord, there was David Sugar who was interested in doing this stuff. That's kind of what he works on normally. So I don't know. He seemed interested. So that's kind of how it's going. We have 2 PRs that I need to merge. So I'm gonna merge these PRs probably first today, and then we continue with client persistence. There's also this issue here that I need to reply to. So, long story short, things are going fine. I think this project is getting started. I think we are all awaiting to see what Andrew is cooking with improved audio backends. He got like the hot potato, so we'll see how he deals with that. And then, man, once the basic, like once we pass the first audio backend hurdle, and we have this, it's really not gonna be too long before we can start thinking of setting up a temporary server. It's gonna be like temporary as fuck, but we're still gonna be able to have it, I think. Every time anyone wants, every time anyone asks access to the OSX keychain, it prompts you to unlock it. Yeah. Although I think that you can grant access to some applications. My point is though, how does the OS establish application identity? So maybe, and you could say, well, it could hash the executable. So you say that you grant access to an executable that has the following hash. That works, but I don't think that whenever an application updates itself, I get a new request to granting access to keychain. So what that makes me think that there is a different signing process. Yeah. Yep. And so I think that you need to have that, like for this, for what we just described to work, you need to have some code signing authority, which macOS has in Apple, Windows has in Windows, and Linux just does not have. And so I don't know how this stuff will work on Linux, but I mean, to be honest, ultimately, when it comes to this type of protections, it's mostly to save clueless users, and like Linux, you're kind of more on your own on Linux, but I mean, I think it's kind of fine. That's what they want. So, and realistically, I wouldn't. Well, I guess on Linux, what you could do is opt into installing some kind of code signing thingy, maybe tied to the secret manager, and you opt into one. So you can still have it. It would just not be that you have a default one that everybody wants to use. There would be probably more than one, and then you have to pick the one that you like. And then I guess I don't know how that would work. I don't know. Linux moment. In any case, yeah, I assume that that was not gonna be a thing, but I guess you could. Yeah. Okay. Since World War 11 bullshit, there were more and more Linux users that didn't want users that just want a working OS without having to tinker with everything. Yeah, World War 11 man, was a complete disaster. Yeah, you know what? What's funny? Windows 11 is not even that bad. I waited before upgrading to it, and now I did, and it's like it's not a real OS. Like I don't know. I look at it, looking at the installation process and how everything worked. I have the very strong feeling that this in the good old times would be called a service pack at best. Like we went from Windows 10 Service Pack 1 to Service Pack 2. Like there's a visual update of like it's visually slightly different, but it's the same fucking shit below the surface. Like I don't think that anything serious has changed whatsoever. So yeah. In any case, it's crap. I cannot wait to get rid of it, and maybe I'll have a Linux machine. Maybe my main machine will turn into a Linux machine. Who knows? Although I don't know. As long as OBS works fine. You know what? I think that right now my main applications on Windows are well browser, but that doesn't matter. OBS, DaVinci Resolve, not even games much. And in any case, games are getting good on Linux, so uh I would even argue that at some point, if games become more important to me, then that's gonna be a point in favor of Linux, not of Windows anymore. Yeah. I guess I just appreciate the fact that I don't have to tinker with this machine. It's like it's Windows, it's not good, but it just doesn't break much, and it just stays there and allows me to not think about it very often. I don't think that Linux would be able to give me that exact experience. Um, okay, I'll go get my tea. Okay, I'm back. Um, okay. Uh, what are we doing? We're increasing font size. We're entering Awebo. We're opening the text editor. We're looking at PRs. PR from Ethernet cable that introduces uh, let's see. Divide events if not much event E. If event different than key continue. Okay. If event is oh, but what was match event doing though? Let's go to definition on match event. Come on, man. Give me the go to definition. There we go. Match event. We were waiting for the build to succeed. Match event. DUI event match simple. Match event on scroll, match event on text layout. What is that? Should E be processed by a widget with the given ID and screen rect? Yeah, this is the keyboard focus stuff. Um, Checking the key action prevents this. I wonder if process event also is not needed. I guess this makes sense. Sign up, invite slug, username and password, Marcus S. Perfect. Deserialize unlock. Yes. The init. This all makes sense. Hello X2. So sign up instead. We could send. To be fair, we could have. Also, this one just have a success. In your case, an invite info reply. Are we juicy yet? Well, if you have a master branch build of Zig, yes, you can use juicy main. Invite info. I don't know if this is a good idea. Yeah, juicy main is out. It doesn't feature the CLI argument parser yet, but the rest of the stuff is there. Hmm. Try Zig with master today? Oh no, I'm sorry. Um, yeah, I haven't. Well, there's been a bajillion breaking changes constantly, right, with Zig. Like you know what's funny? Awebo itself doesn't work with master because we're at a recent-ish build um of Zig 016, but not super recent. So sign up should result in a client request reply in your case and a hosting. We might want to change this slightly in the future, but for now, it's fine. Although if we implement the server side first, implementing the server side is easier, but then you're not going to be able to test anything until you implement this client side. So, hmm. Can I suggest a change? Is there a concept of suggesting changes? Add table, mention a user or team, reference an issue or pull request. Oh, that just puts a pound sign. That's it. Okay. 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 I think this is good. So we didn't get to merge any of our PRs, um, but I was able to review both of them, so they're not like ready to merge. Okay. So now we can go and focus on our own stuff. So where do we do for that? Where do we go for that? We want to go into client persistence. I think this is where we left it. Yes. So this is where we were. We have a host. We're loading a host from disk, and we want to load anything that we stored. So the first thing that we do is we open the database. Also, this identity like this thing, I don't love it. I wish we had a better way. I think we um this would be domain names or IPs. Can you always make a file? Can you always use an IP as a file name? I think the answer is IPv4, yes. IPv6, no. You cannot put colons in file names, right? You can put square brackets, yes. IPv6 has numbers, square brackets, and colons, right? Or letters as well. Those are fine. Man, the textual representation of IPv6 is S. Maybe the identity like this is fine. I don't know. Can you put columns in file names? I should probably ask AI. Are generally forbidden in Windows? because the OS uses them for drive letters, but are allowed on macOS and Linux. Fucking Windows, of course, of course. Um, so I guess that means that what like the proper implementation of this would be to replace colons with underscores on Windows, I guess. But then if you turn those in an oh man, I hate these OSs. What are we trying to do here? So basically, right now, I'm creating a bunch of files on disk, one per host that your client is connected to. And a host is identified. Let's say in the best case, it's identified by a domain name. So you decided to join, the Zig.show Awebo server, and so you as the client identify the host via its domain name Zig.show. But um, another way of doing it for somebody who doesn't have a domain is to use an IP. And so you can identify a server as um, can you convert the IP into an integer and use this integer instead? Yes, we could. Although there's some downsides there. I'll explain. I'll get to that in a moment. So in the case of an IP, then the client identifies the server via the IP, and you can create a file with an IP in it, an IPv4. But IPv6 starts getting weird because it has colons in it. Uh, so obviously there are ways of converting these. Also, it doesn't even have to be necessarily the IP itself. Like we could hash it. Like we could write down a hash um, of everything. The problem is that it is a nice property to be able to uh, immediately identify visually which database corresponds to which host for you as the user. So I would like to be able to basically have a file name that trivially that the user can trivially recognize as belonging to a specific host. So, for example, turning an IP into an integer loses that property, and same of the other ones. Yeah. So I could just use underscores, but here's the problem. Here's the funny problem. I could use underscores, but then let me think about it for a second. I could use underscores, but do I ever need to turn the underscores back into colons? Because in that case, it's a problem because then you don't know if a given underscore was originally an underscore already or if it was turned into a colon. Or rather, you kind of know because IPs will not have underscores and domain names will not have colons in them. But then you have to overall recognize which is which I guess you could do with a prefix. But you were starting to layer more complexity on. Now let me think. Will I ever need to take a name and turn it back? No, I don't think I will. I think it's a one-way only thing. I think it's a one-way only transformation. So we could do colons to underscores. Yeah. Would be nicer to not to have that any of that though. That's for sure. Don't support Windows. mm. Want to know something funny on that topic? So look at what Mason posted recently. Uh, Prediction: Microsoft is going to do the funniest thing imaginable. So his prediction is that within 15 years, Microsoft will discontinue Windows in favor of a Windows themed Linux distribution. That's his bet. In which is honestly, it's wild. It's not a bet that it's this guaranteed to be to become true. But it is also not completely insane because of this, I would say mainly gaming is already a better experience on Linux. Like the trajectory the Windows have taken historically has in very big part been shaped by gaming. So were you against underscore as the colon replacement? Because I wasn't sure if I ever had to do the transformations the transformation the other way around, and in case I had to, then it would be complicated. You can't have underscoring domain names. Really? Are you serious? Are you serious? I was convinced that you could. No. No, no, I don't believe you. Are you serious? Name cheap. What? Foo banana. No underscores. Who designed this stuff? I thought that people use hyphens because they preferred hyphens, which I also do prefer. As we say, the records start with an underscore. There are we say records. Oh my fucking god! That is a that it's a tiny quirk of the web that I completely ignored. You cannot have underscores in domain names. Holy shit. Crazy. In any case, well, but he's saying everyone else will follow the gamers. So, I mean, there's obviously, a lot of more reasonings, and Mason is explaining that I'm not reading to you right now. So go read the original blog post if you want to get a full understanding of what his thinking is. There's also this last one. Microsoft already ships Linux, so you know. Um, I think the only counter argument to this is that while it is definitely true that the initial part of Windows' rise to success was shaped by gaming, it is not guaranteed that the same will hold true, for the other side of the arc. So it is not necessarily true that gaming moving away will doom Windows to a point of turning into a Linux. Actually, there is one reasonably strong argument against this based on this. Like there's kind of a self-limiting thing. Windows is getting worse, and in general, Microsoft is becoming, with all due respect, more and more incompetent at making software. And if they were to try and turn Windows into a Linux, you would need somebody like it is doing that transition correctly, successfully, requires a very strong engineering muscle. It's possible, but it does require an engineering an engineering muscle. And so you could argue that part of what's making Windows worse is also what's going to prevent what's going to prevent Microsoft from attempting to make a Windows compatible Linux distribution. Windows has the Office capture. Yes, but also Office is online now. Office is Office 365 now, right? So it's entirely online. Or you know what? You can correct me because I might very well be wrong. But I believe that this is what's happening. So as those things move to the web, then over time, it is true to say that the cost of maintaining an operating system will, there it's going to be more cost than what it's worth. But then again, will they be able to turn Windows into a Linux and not fuck it up? They were not even able to make Windows work reasonably well on ARM. Windows on ARM has been cringe. They made their own version of Rosetta, which is uh, orders of magnitude worse than Rosetta. So, will they be able to do the work that's necessary to? Oh, you know what? Wait a second. Wait a second. I was about to say, will they be able to do the work necessary to make Windows applications work on Linux? But then I realized, wait, somebody already did that work for them. They just have to use Wine. uh, well, I think that Microsoft as an organization is becoming more and more incapable of fostering a culture of uh, good engineering and rewarding that internally. It seems to me that there's like just no interest in making that happen whatsoever at an institutional level. Is a web open source? Yes, this is the repo. Hmm. So I don't know. We'll see. If this happens, man, can you imagine the year of the Linux desktop sponsored by Microsoft abandoning Windows and Apple doing whatever it is that they're doing now? Man, I have to say, this new UI is horrible. Wait, do I even have the new UI? Is this the new UI? I don't even remember. Wait. No, this looks still way too reasonable. Wait a second. Am I on the shitty UI? Yeah, no, I'm not on the shitty UI. There we go. This thing here is the shitty UI. Hello, Stevie. Yeah, that's not the new UI. Yeah, because I updated some of my machines and I was saying, wait, I don't hate this too much. This seems still fine. And then I remembered this machine hasn't been updated. Man, I have one machine with this thing on. It's ass. Like it's so bad. The UI is so bad that it makes me want to switch to Linux so that I don't have to stare at it. It's embarrassing. Like, how did Apple end up here? Is I don't know. It's insane. In any case, if Microsoft does the funniest thing imaginable, that would be, I would agree, that would be so fucking funny. Do it switch, man. You look, if I switch now, it's gonna be a 45-minute long wait before we get this computer back into running condition. So I'm gonna wait. Wait, I'm running Tahoe right now, and I confirm that your current UI. Oh, yeah, miles better than whatever Apple did with Tahoe. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Like that liquid glass idea. I just cannot imagine how that. How did people look at that in a meeting and say, "Yes, this is the direction we should go"? It's it's just so bad. It's just so, I don't know. There is no a single redeeming factor to it. I don't understand. It's like the Microsoft level. It's the kind of thing that I would not be surprised by Microsoft, but Apple doing that totally surprises me. Huh. Didn't Apple kill the Linux distro that runs on Apple hardware? Did it? No, I don't think it even can, right? I think you were talking about Asahi Linux, but Asahi Linux is it's entirely based on reverse engineering. So, like, unless Apple sends out killers to murder all the people working on it, I don't think there's much else that they can do. I guess technically they could sue them, but also, um, yeah. I don't have to handle these things, so this is fine. We don't need to worry about authentication because this is not web. So, or rather, you know what? Let me think. No, because I think that username and password implies. Well, no, actually, that doesn't imply shit. I was about to say that implies web, but no, it does not imply web whatsoever. So, mm, I wouldn't worry. Okay, I think it's time to start loading our host stuff. So here's the problem, or like the cool stuff. You decide. We want to have shared representations between server and client as much as we can. If we have to do things that make no sense for the client to do uh, representation sharing, then no, we shouldn't do it. But there's a lot of things, so messages, channels, and users, where, as far as you know, or at least for now, the tables that the server uses are a one-to-one with the tables that the client should use. So we want to share those definitions. Um, what about the column before the port? Good point. That is a column that we might need to support. But it's fine because if nothing can have underscores, then if we turn that into an underscore, then we can always safely turn it back into a column when needed. And but sorry, this was in any case a whole discussion that depended on us ever having to do that transformation backwards. And I believe that we actually don't even need to do that, so it's gonna be fine. So you know what? Let's implement these host name transformation things. So let's do it. Um, so how do we do this? We do. Mm, I guess we do alloc, a print alloc. No, we do a dupe z. We dupe z. So const file name equals. Oh, we have to give it also a full path. Wait a second. What is path in this context? There's no path anywhere, is there? Maybe there's a path variable, but it won't correspond to what it is that we care about. Okay. Oh, wait a second. So we need, okay. So we need to transform this guy. And at the same time, we also need to concatenate it uh, to a full path. So we need to use cache there. Man, if only we could use the abstractions that Zig has to open our goddamn SQLite file. This is annoying. Like, it's annoying the fact that I have to go through SQLite to open a file, which prevents me from being able to use an open directory handle, for example. Um, because SQLite doesn't want me to open the file, which is annoying. And I think it's a use case that they should support, where they explain exactly how it is that you are supposed to open a file for them, but then you open the fucking file and then you hand the open file handle to SQLite. God damn it. Okay, so we cannot use that, but we do have cache path. Okay, we have cache path. So we need to do path join. And I guess we can do path join FMT. So db path is going to be std fmt alloc print. What did my eyes just see? std fmt alloc print sentinel. Let's go. Because we need the null terminator at the end. Which I guess for which you don't really need a comp time. We don't need the sentinel version of this because you could just do. Well, anyway, I guess because this is typed, this gives you a typed thing back, which is okay, which is good. Okay, GPA format string is gonna be the path, I guess. Arguments is gonna be std dot. Well, let me fix this in the meantime. So std dot fs path fmt join. And in FMT join, we want to glue together cache path and client identity, but transformed. So how do we transform client identity? I wish we had some kind of replace FMT. Or you know what? Wait a second. We can run replace. We can run replace after the fact. It's slightly less efficient, but it works. It saves us like another allocation or weird copies. The best option would be some kind of formatter that does replacement, but it's fine. So h.client.identity. And so that makes our file name. And then we do std mem.replace u8 input db path needle. Oh, it's a string. So colon replacement underscore output. Output. It's because it could be shorter. No, wait. This is a replace, but not in place. Oh no, std mem dot in. Okay, let's read the description. Which is assumed to be of the appropriate size. User replacement size. No, I want to replace in place. Come on, man. Replace owned as an allocator. Replace scalar. Yeah, it's replace scalar that we want. U8. Okay, that makes sense. DB path. Match is going to be colon. Replacement is going to be underscore, and that's it. There you go. Finally. Actually, this is DB path. There we go. Is there an FNT option for bool, true and false? Wait, what would that do? I think that normally, like if you don't specify anything, you get true and false when you're trying to print a boolean. Apple harassed the shit out of the Linux devs, so the biggest, I think, now 3 guys quit. Well, if I remember correctly, um, one of the maybe the project lead left, but that had had nothing to do with Apple. I think that was drama related to Linux because they were developing stuff for Asai Linux, reverse engineering the GPU stack on Apple machines, and they were trying to upstream that into the kernel. But they were doing the work with Rust, and there was all kinds of shenanigans related to that. And I think that what happened is that the person left after, I don't know, like some kind of yelling match in the Linux newsletter. Well, the mailing list. Sorry. Okay, this is as good as we can make it, I think. So we don't do this, but we do defer gpa.freedb path. Hello, Philo. Yeah, this happened afterwards though. The guy left. The guy left before this happened. But I believe that it wasn't Apple. I'm fairly sure that this was. I believe that this is the same person that also has as a alternative identity as Ailina. I forget the name. But in any case, there was this drama, and then there was this blog post about leaving and Markan. I don't think that Apple was involved, or maybe there was also Apple in the mix. I don't know. You know what? I don't remember the contents of that blog post precisely. So maybe the blog post also mentioned that Apple was one of the reasons why that happened. I don't know. Expected constraint found what? Sorry, found colon 48 U8. Oh shit. It's on me. The Sentinel is supposed to be an actual 0 byte, not not the byte that corresponds to ASCII 0. Oh man. Fair. Okay, so this part is fine. Load host. As I was saying, we want to share code. I guess we could do it two ways. One is we don't care about code sharing for now, and we just try to make this happen, and then we worry about refactoring this afterwards. Or we try to do the right thing right away. So let's assume that we do the right thing right away. How would that work? The way it would work, I guess, is that for database or somewhere under database, there would be a namespace for like under database. Maybe we put shared table definitions. Um, hmm. Or and then there's one for client, one for server, or what? Or what? Or what? I like being able to see all my table definitions inside init for the server. Like I like having this one view over everything that is in the server. What we could do is have the client pull some of these guys somehow. No, but for this to work, these things would have to be placed somewhere else. You know what? Let's for now do duplication, and we worry about that at another point in time. So here's load host. We need to implement load host. So in database, here we have some server only stuff. And now we want a client only load host, which is here. Any particular reason for multi-line create table over embedded SQL files? Yes, laziness mainly. I do think that the better, like the improved version of that file is to take all the SQL definitions and move them into SQL files. But I was being lazy. One thing that I gain from having those there rather than having them be separate text is that I can use comments like this. And I know that SQL has its own style of comments. But I think it's also nice to have the comments not be part of the SQL query personally, because then you can you can hash them, you can compare them, and if anything is different, it means that the query is different, not that you changed a comment, for example. So, but it's a minor thing. I would say that probably the best idea for sure is to put them into files. That being said, the reason why I'm waiting is because I also, once I do that transformation, I would also like to have a better way of organizing these queries. And I would like to have some metaprogramming that checks, that does like some checks. Something along those lines. I don't know exactly yet how everything should work, but like some extra like safety that we currently don't really have. Okay. So client impl blah blah blah. So we have a database handle and we want to load information inside of a Awebo host. It could very well be that this database did not exist before or like it's empty. So we have to check whether the database is empty. And if it is, then we need to initialize it. And that kind of sucks, by the way, because with the server, we don't have to do this thing. And in here, it's annoying because, man, it's annoying because we don't have a quick way of, I guess we can just check for a table that we know has to be there, if it exists or not. And then based on that, we decide what to do. Let's see, what's the best way to check if a table exists? SQL, check if table exists. So you know what? I should stop using Google for this. It's a new world. You ask AI these questions. How do I check? Hey, Dimurroy. Hello. Hello, everybody. Holy shit. Big raid. Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you very much for the raid. Hello, everybody. So since all these people are coming and, well, you caught me. You caught me use AI. I was about to ask a question to AI. So what are we doing here? We are doing a open source, self-hostable Discord replacement. So it's meant to be kind of like Discord, not necessarily a one-to-one, but it's a chat application with voice channels. The idea is that you self-host it, and then uh, I don't know, you use it and you have a good time. The reason why we're doing this is because, I work at the Zig Software Foundation, and the reason why we're doing this in Zig, obviously. One reason why we're doing this is, let me tell you the main reason. The main reason is that Zig, since the beginning, has had a distributed community. So even when the language was fairly small, you could argue that it's still small today, but in any case, when it was smaller than it is today, we had more than the user base split into different communities fairly quickly, and we always encouraged that. Um, it is not uncommon for projects that are like small enough for have everybody exist in just one community, and you kind of try to have one community for as long as you can, but then inevitably your community will have to split because different people have different preferences in how they do communication. So some people are fine with instant messaging, some other people hate instant messaging and they want forums. And for example, so we do have a forum. We have Zigit. So in case you have never seen it, Zigit is a forum style Zig community where people, chat, but at a slower frequency than what you do with Discord, for example. There's also other reasons why people want to split into different communities. Sometimes they want to have a community specific to one part of software engineering, or like one specific field. So for example, let's think about Python. You have the people that do web stuff with Python, and they will be centered more around, Django and that kind of stuff. Then you have the people who do data science. They will be centered more around pandas or whatever the NumPy, whatever the new and hot thing is in Python. When it comes to data science, etc., right? There will be like different like subgroups. So it is normal for that to happen. We embrace this from the day one, but there is one problem that we have been facing. The problem is that what happened is some people split off from some communities, not because they really wanted to go somewhere else, but because they just had issues with changes in the platform that was being used. The quintessential example of this is Discord. Discord has been enshittifying a little bit as of late. They started pushing more and more the nitro stuff. It's more and more annoying about gamer shit. It wants to milk more engagement out of you. There's the thing on the top right, like activity cards. To this day, I have no idea what those are. I hate them. I keep clicking hide activity cards, and then they keep unhiding themselves. I get quests. What even is a quest? No, I don't want a key for a free horse skin in Anthem or another game that I'm never gonna play. So Discord has been more and more annoying about this, and some people have left Discord communities, these Zig communities on Discord, because they were annoyed at this fact. And I would say on one hand, it's reasonable for them to want to do that. On the other, it's annoying when the shape of your community is not dictated by organic needs. People don't come and go because they want to communicate a certain way, they want to interact with you, or they don't want to interact with you, right? They come and go because they got spammed one too many times the fucking horse skin thing, or like you got a free key for a game on Xbox, and like I don't even own an Xbox. Why are you bothering me with this? So, long story short, the idea is to, at least for me personally, and some other communities, some other Z communities interested in this, is to get off of Discord. But we like in general the Discord style of communication. I'm fine with instant messaging. And one thing that I really appreciate about Discord are voice channels, which, to be fair, Discord did not invent. They existed before. I used to self-host TeamSpeak when I was younger. And the idea of self-hosting, like I was self-hosting TeamSpeak, but for something that is more, modern than TeamSpeak, it doesn't seem a bad idea. So that's what we're trying to achieve. That is the main reason why we're spending effort doing this. A secondary reason why we're doing this is that we have introduced async IO in Zig recently. We're in the process of implementing it, and this type of application is an application that really uh, makes heavy use of async IO, and so it's a good way of dog fooding what we've been building. A Discord alternative, but focused for devs. Yes, that's kind of the idea. With just one caveat, it is the main use case is open source software development teams. And for example, here's one huge pain point that we have right now in the Zig Software Foundation. We moved from Discord to Zulip. Let me see if I have it here. So if you want to contribute to Zig, there's a Zulip server where you can participate in development. But Zulip has a horrible problem. There is no voice chats. And so whenever you want to speak to somebody, you have to, there's a command to start a call. I'm logged out on this computer, so I can't show you, but like when you start a new message, sorry, when you press the button to start creating a new message, there's a button to create a new call. And when you press that button, it pastes in a link to Jitsi. And so you get a link to do a Jitsi call. And Jitsi is horrible. I'm sorry. We do not have a good time with Jitsi. First of all, it's not a voice channel. So you can't do the thing where you open the thing and you see that some people are having a voice discussion. You're not going to discover it that way. And I think that already is a huge loss because I really like the ability to do that in Discord. But then also Jitsi is peer-to-peer. Yeah, you're wondering how it's written, right? It definitely has an interesting name, doesn't it? I'm also probably pronouncing it in an even more interesting way. It's spelled Jitsi, I think. Jitsi. But then if you try to deploy this yourself, like, by the way, if you, I'll also answer, nobody has asked me this yet, but like, why are we doing this ourselves? Daniel, what are you talking about? You use automatic reference counting ARC? Are you talking about my browser? This thing, if you try to deploy it, it's a nightmare. I actually tried to deploy this once. It's Java, and I don't know, it just doesn't fucking want to work. The server admin. So first of all, it's not good. Like, with all due respect, but it is not good. It's not great. Maybe it's not its fault. Maybe it is. So when you're doing peer-to-peer over WebRTC, you're like heavily depending on your browser implementation of that stuff. So I've seen my tabs crash. Like, tabs crash a lot with Jitsi, and that might not be Jitsi's fault. It might be, the client's fault. So it's not necessarily them. Time to make your own. That's what we're doing tomorrow's afternoon, by the way. But yes, that's what we're doing. That's what Awebo is. Awebo is self-hostable Discord, open source, made in Zig. That's what I'm actually in the process of coding. So Jitsi is not good. It's not good to use. It's not good to deploy. So man, no. And some people asked me yesterday, I think, what about Revolt, which is now stowed? So by the end of the day, yes, sure, boss. I'll see you at the end of the day. So there's Stowed, which used to be called Revolt. They have a new fancy website, good for them. But so why people are asking, why are you not doing this? Why are you not just using this? We could. This is another open source Discord alternative. Like when you open the web version, okay, I don't have a quick way of showing you, but when you open the web version, this is like this is basically what Awebo kind of wants to be visually speaking. They are just like way ahead of us. They have a lot more feature completeness, like significantly a lot more. But and then people are saying, wait, then why don't you just use this? Why are you reinventing the wheel yet again? Well, there's a big reason why. And people jokingly said, "Is it because it's too rusty?" Because if you look at the thing itself, where is it? The application landing page. Where's the core itself? I think this is the core. It is a Rust project. So people are saying, you don't want to use a Rust project, huh? No, you know what? I actually don't want to use this because it's not enough of a Rust project. Specifically, if you want to self-host this server, look at the Docker Compose. So first of all, the main database is Mongo. Wow. Then there's Redis. It's actually not Redis, it's KDB. By the way, of all the Redis compatible alternatives, KDB is the fucking worst one. It's like the bad taste that made this thing happen is impressive. It's on another scale. Like, I don't like Valky. I'm not sure I like the Redis Labs fork of Redis, honestly. But man, KDB is like, why would you do this? This is disgusting. So, also, you have Redis, right? You think, well, that's enough for messaging. No, there's also RabbitMQ. Fuck it, let's run also RabbitMQ. Then there's Mini IO, because you could put files on disk, right? When you're running this stuff on your machine, like, this could be made optional, but it's not made optional. So like, you also have to run Mini IO because you need to have a bucket thingy. Okay. Then there's Caddy, the web server. Well, why does it need a web server? Like, does Rust not have a production grade web server that you can implementation that you can expose? Go has it. Why doesn't Rust have it? In reality, I would suspect that Rust probably has it, and then these guys still want to use Caddy in front of it. Then you have the API server, which I think should be the server. Is this the Revolt chat itself? Maybe. Then there's an event service. Like, what the fuck is an event service? Why is this a separate thing? Then you have web. I don't know what web is at this point. Caddy is easy enough to set up. Yeah, but if you have the web server, I imagine Caddy there is for reverse processing other services as well as the main application. Yeah, but why is it like this? This is like, in my opinion, this is stupid web scale shit. So here's how Awebo server is gonna work. Okay, you have the Awebo executable. It's gonna have a config file. It's gonna have a SQLite database file. That's it. You're done. That's your entire thing. You make a systemd startup script for it, and you have deployed a Awebo server. Maybe optionally you will be able to do some stuff. So for example, for assets, you will be able by default to store attachments, images, avatars. You're going to be able to put that by default in your local hard drive. If you don't want to do that, or a network attached hard drive, if you don't want to do that, then you can use optionally you can use a blob storage of some kind. So you like Mini IO in Kubernetes, do that. You want to use the one that your cloud provider offers, you can use that, but optionally. Then there's going to be emails, and here's how it's going to work for emails. Option 1, emails are not enabled. Like, you're running a super tiny server with just you and your friends. You don't need emails because you don't want them to receive email notifications, probably. And if they lost their password, you'll reset their password for them manually. Like they'll ask you, and you'll do it for them. Then you can enable emails. And here's the idea. Okay, chat, try to guess. For emails, for sending out emails, guess which service we're going to use to send out emails. Or which application, or like which system. How are we going to send out emails? SMTP, yes, that's how you send emails, correct. Resend. I don't know what resend is, but I'm guessing it's a service, right, that does that. AWS SES. Send mail. So why this is sending me to redis.io. A beautiful pop-up, Redis, thank you. Resend mail for developers. Nice. Okay. I knew about Postmark, I think. I guess that's another one. By the way, does anybody have an opinion on Postmark versus alternatives? In any case, here's what we're gonna do. Check this insane idea. I use Go's SMTP package in the past. Yes, exactly. That's what we're gonna do. Well, not literally use the SMTP package, but like we implement SMTP. We implement SMTP and we send emails from the Awebo server. Then, if you don't want to do that, if your server doesn't have a good IP, in terms of reputation, or if you need to send like you have a ton of users and you want to send a bajillion emails all the time, then you will want probably to use a more serious email service. And so we are gonna have we're gonna have support for at least some of those. If it's standardized, then we're gonna support whatever standard protocol there is. Otherwise, we're gonna have like a reasonable selection of those. That's it. So we could use, for example, send mail, but like, just implement SMTP and send it from the fucking program. Why do you need a bajillion services for this? So this is going to be the philosophy behind Awebo. One executable, one config file, one database file. That is it. Autumn, file server. So there's a file server. I don't know what that is. What does it do? January, metadata and image proxy. Giftbox, tenor proxy. What the fuck is a tenor proxy? Tenor GIF keyboard. I'm not going to add this shit to Awebo, by the way. Like, never has happened in the history of the internet that somebody selects one of those fucking GIFs and they're doing you a favor. It has never happened. Every time somebody does this shit, they're sending you useless garbage. Like, this is AI level slop. So fuck this. I'm not gonna let anybody send this shit to me. So this is not gonna happen. Regular task daemon, cron D. But wasn't there another? So what's the difference between that and event service? Push D, push notification daemon. Create buckets for mini IO. Create buckets. Wait, there's a service. There's a microservice that creates buckets for mini IO. Why? Why? But why? Well, no, but this is a service that runs. This is not initial setup. Like, this is an actual service that runs. Oh, Mini.io is an abstraction that also works on the hard drive. Oh, so you're saying that by using Mini.io, they also have the hard drive as a Mini.io backend, do they? They do have a volume. Oh, okay. So I see. So they're basically, I see. I understand now. The abstraction works that basically they put the local hard drive behind the bucket system. Understood. So, but like, okay, seriously, like this is not good. Listen, I used to run on Zig.News forum. Forum is the CMS that behind Dev.2. I don't know if you've ever seen Dev.2. So Dev.2, it's this thing. And I used to run this. So Zig, you would go to Zig.News and you would see roughly the same interface, and it would contain Zig blog posts. I used to run this thing. So this is a Ruby on Rails application that uses, when you want to self-host this, you deploy it with Ansible playbooks, and then it deploys on Core OS, which doesn't even have a package manager. Like, it's basically a distro where you're supposed to do everything through Docker. And then the Ansible playbook stuff would like set up a bajillion containers. There was no way of understanding when something wouldn't work. There was a service that I would use to get notifications in whenever an error happened, and I would keep getting type errors in the Ruby code. So the Ruby code had type errors in it because, of course, why wouldn't it have type errors? And then at some point, it started giving me trouble with Docker itself. because I was using a different version of Docker than what they were using originally in when they because they didn't pin the version of Docker, so I ended up with whatever version of Docker was out when I did the deployment. And at some point, it started erroring out because they were trying to use the Ruby code was trying to use syscalls that the Docker container would block, and so I had to go and modify this stuff in Docker to allow that syscall. Um, and like the last thing, the reason why, by the way, guess what happened after a while? I removed it. The thing that broke the camel's back, the camel being me, is that it didn't have anti-spam features. So I would keep getting fucking spam constantly on top of everything. And when I started blocking the spammer accounts, they would start sending requests that would produce errors. And so they would spam insanely the error reporting thingy, because every time they try to make a request, they would be blocked by the few anti-spam features that this thing implemented. That would result in an error. And so like it was just a mess. So long story short, what is my point here? My point is that I've become allergic to deploying things that have more moving pieces than they should have. I want applications that are easy to deploy, not because I don't know how to do deployment. I can do the deployment. The problem is that the cost of having these many moving pieces is that it's not the deployment, it's maintaining it over time. The more janky pieces you have flying around, the more likely it is that they're going to shit themselves at some point, and then you have to start looking after what's going on. And I don't want to do that. I want a single executable, embedded database, and that's going to be it. So that's what Awebo is. And that's why we're not going to consider StoveChat. Because StoveChat, so to conclude, the problem with StoveChat is that, in my opinion, it's not enough Rust. I think that StoveChat would be a significantly better project if it was more Rust and less MongoDB, less KeyDB, less RabbitMQ. Why do you have Redis and RabbitMQ, man? Why? So, that's it. Got to verify your Revolt account. Yeah, they have yet to update the name everywhere, I guess. So we're not gonna make this mistake. Redis and RabbitMQ do different jobs. Yeah, they do, but they also overlap a lot. I mean, I'm guessing that that's why they do it. Like they're using them for different things. But RabbitMQ is messaging, but you can also do the messaging on Redis. So what I like, it's very likely that whatever like task queue implementation, like whatever task queue no, friend. Redis is key value. You can use it as a cache, but it also has lists that you can use for message queues. It has streams, which are basically event sourcing. So you can whatever task queue thing you're using can use both Rabbit and Redis as a backend. And almost all of them, if not really pretty much every single one of them. So you could very well use Redis in replacement of RabbitMQ. There might be cases where you're using RabbitMQ directly without a task queue abstraction on top, and so you might want to use some specific feature of RabbitMQ that Redis doesn't have. That's fine. But that's not what they're doing. They're most likely using something. They're not going to be using this because this is Python, but it's like Celery. So when you're using Celery, you can see that what do I need? Let's see. Celery requires message transport to send and receive messages. RabbitMQ and Redis brokers transports are feature complete, but there's also support for a myriad other experimental solutions, including SQLite for local development. Yeah, also, as of late, people have started discovering that you can also use a normal database for storing your tasks. And it actually works fine. So, like, the point is that when they designed this, in my opinion, well, I closed it up, but when they designed that, they didn't really have in mind, they didn't worry about trying to minimize the number of dependencies. They just glued a bunch of dependencies together, and I just don't like software made that way anymore. I'm past that. I want software that is designed with an understanding that dependencies can be fine, but they need to be used with, like, there has to be some restraint in using them, because dependencies ultimately are a form of technical debt. And in that case, what happens when a thing has a bajillion dependencies is that the technical debt gets basically redirected onto who has to maintain the thing. So no, thank you. I want to have the server executable that runs and that I just don't ever look at ever again until it starts running out of memory because there's too many attachments. I don't know. That kind of stuff. How do I check uh, if a table exists in SQLite? It returns no rows. Okay. Thank you. Copy. You should see dependencies as your own code, in my opinion. If you don't understand them, don't use them. Yeah, I mean, you can also, I think it is reasonable while you're developing something to leverage a dependency literally as a form of debt. Like, it's not like that debt is inherently evil, right? Debt is one of the most, is one of the best inventions or discoveries, depending on how you want to look at it, that humanity has ever made. To me, it's up there with fire, the wheel, I don't know, like spicy rocks that you can make do stuff with like computers. It's one of the greatest inventions. If we had never conceptualized a debt in our history, we would probably still be at the Stone Age today, roughly speaking. But obviously, it's a dangerous tool, kind of like fire, kind of like the wheel also. And so if you misuse it, then you get bad consequences. So that is useful for accelerating. And so it is good to have a dependency that does something for you while you're trying, while you still are trying to figure out the thing, how the whole thing is supposed to work. But then I agree that eventually, as you like, your end goal should not be to have that you have written essentially of all the code lines that that your application is made up of, including dependencies, including like MongoDB dependencies, for example. So not just like libraries that you're importing, packages that you're importing, but also runtime dependencies that you have. Your goal shouldn't be to say, well, you know what, my application is going to be 10%, 5% the code that I've wrote, and then 95% code that somebody else wrote. And I think that if you look at Stow Chat, I would be surprised if you start counting the lines of code, if Stow Chat, if their own code is more than like 5% of their whole project. And I'm probably being weird, like too generous. Probably it's way less than that. So that should not be your end goal. Your end goal should be that your application, especially when it comes to the core stuff, should be mainly be written by you, or at least understood by you, and something that you should be able to maintain. So yeah. By the way, if anybody else is interested in this perspective and wants to hear an argument that is better structured than just me ranting on Twitch, take a look at this. I gave a talk on this general idea at a conference. Check it out. And then if you have complaints about it, you know where to find me. Okay, so we need to check if it's empty. So we can create a function in here. Why Awebo? Because of this. Weebs? No. This has nothing to do with weebs. So this bird is called, it's a ptarmigan, and in winter they look all white, but for some reason they still have red eyebrows, and so it's and they make this noise. They say Awebo. It's hilarious. By the way, look at my prompt. My prompt is an Awebo bird. So so this is the idea. So the whole thing is Awebo, Awebo, Awebo. Let's see. We can see another one. This thing is so funny. Okay, oh my god. Okay, the final part was edited. Oh man, I forgot that that video was edited. Good video. Weibo token. Oh my god. Let's ignore the crypto shit. Well, now you know. Awebo, Awebo. Oh, sorry, YouTube. I forgot to enable audio for you, but the bird was saying Awebo. That's the long story short of it. So yeah. I've seen the Aidas with gorillas as well. It's like is it the one with the gorilla that is like filming a vlog while going through the forest, smoking weed and stuff. And well, I don't see them anymore, but for a while I used to see them. What are your thoughts on the REPL client issue that I made? Hey 11, I haven't replied yet, sorry, but that we already have that kinda. The server has a CLI. It's not a REPL, but the server has a CLI to and do that kind of stuff in the server. And for the client, look into the TUI client. The TUI client has supports subcommands, and it does what you described. So like we already have some of that. The work has been started by Neurosite, so I don't know how well it works right now. Probably there's a lot of like maybe he just maybe prototyped it. I'm not sure. I haven't run it yet myself. So be aware that it's like in the it's in an embryonal state probably right now, but yeah, we have that again. Not exactly a REPL, but you know, um, it's close enough and it's easier to implement that way. So select name from SQLite master, type table, and name your table name. Let's call it settings. What do we call it? Host. I think we should call it host. Let's well, okay, so this is to see if the database is empty or not. So return row is going to be db dot row query, no arguments, semicolon. I was thinking that if it's fully a CLI, it would be difficult to manage state across calls. And the TUI adds, no, you're misunderstanding. the TUI client, when run without arguments, starts a TUI version of the client, like the full-fledged client, actually. But if you run it with subcommands, it runs. It doesn't start the TUI. It just runs the subcommands. Like you can see this in the source code. Look at the code. Look at code source client TUI. Never mind CLI. And CLI has, for example, server.zig, which supports literally what you were describing: adding a new server, removing a server, listing servers, showing a server. And so these are like, you run a Awebo TUI server list, and it just lists, instead of starting the client, just lists. I think it should be Awebo-TUI, to be honest, so that it doesn't collide with Awebo. Oh no, you know what? I think Neurosite is thinking that we should have this also available in the GUI, maybe. I don't know. Well, in any case, setting aside this detail, like, this is being implemented. That is my point. And the TUI client should support this. Let's look at main TUI. Source main TUI. There you go. So if you run TUI, it starts the TUI client. If instead you have the server command, manage server settings. So this is the idea. So running Awebo with no resource will start the Awebo terminal client. There we go. There's 16 milestone on Codeberg has only 10 issues remaining. Is there an estimated release date for 016? Not an exact date, but it's probably going to be a couple of months. I think the last time this was discussed, the idea was to delay a little bit more. I think the point is that 016 will come out once async.io has been implemented. You know, with the usual caveat, it's still gonna be incomplete. There's still gonna be probably bits and pieces missing here and there, like bugs, that kind of stuff. So I'm not saying that 016 will feature, you know, the final version of async.io, but it should feature a working version of async.io. And I think that the 016 release will be delayed until that happens. There might be some other blockers. Maybe it has to do with the 10 issues that you're seeing there, but I also think that there will be at some point a moment where the core team decides at the quote unquote last minute which final things try to get in, and then the release will be cut. But it's going to be a couple of months. Actually, we can just do try. Okay. These shadows definition. Okay. There we go. So this should tell us if the database is empty. GitHub. I have a GitHub account, but I also have a Codeberg account. And in any case, this repository is on Codeberg. You see it here. So if it's empty, I guess we can do h equals some kind of default initializer. We need to double check if this default initializer is good enough. Well, dot star, sorry. I don't remember if my default initializer is good or if it's on purpose S. And then here we need to do initialize db, and then we return. And then else, basically, and then here instead we do load data like. Although we either do a separate function or we could write everything directly here, but yeah, separate functions, I think it's fine. So function initialize void. So this is where we should have all the tables. So maybe we can make const tables equals and then we loop over tables with met programming. Yeah. Let's make it abstract. Okay, so tables has then the debug allocator is memory safe, as I understand. It depends on how you configure it. By default, it is. But when you define the type, you also pass in an empty object, an empty struct usually. And in there, I believe that you can turn off thread safety. Oh, sorry, you said is memory saved. Wait a second. I misread. I thought you were asking about thread safety. Rewind, undo. Is the debug allocator memory safe? Wait, what does that mean precisely? The debug allocator will tell you about double freeze. It will no seg faults. No, I don't think it can protect you from seg faults. Or rather, it's kind of the other way around. I don't remember if this is still implemented. Let me double check. Let's look at the config. Stack trace frames, okay. Enable memory limit, safety, where to enable safety checks. Thread safe, mutex type. There we go. It's never on map. So if you turn never on map to true, then it's the other way around. It's not that accessing freed memory will not seg fault. Accessing freed memory will guarantee a crash. I don't know if it's going to be a seg fault or if it's going to be something different. Let me see. This is a debugging temporary trick that you can use to turn seg faults into a more helpful logged error messages with a stack trace details. Okay, so we'll turn seg faults into panics. So it will basically guarantee a crash when you try to use memory that has been freed. Did you just jump into the source code? How did you do that? It's an LSP feature. I specified the symbol that I want to look, they want to definition to, to go to the definition to, and I do press G for the go to menu, and then D for go to definition. Note that I'm using flow. I'm using flow control.dev, but this is an LSP feature, so whatever editor you use that supports LSP will have an equivalent of this. And so I press D, and it sends me to where the definition is, and then I click on this, and I do go to definition again, and I can see all definitions that I want. Like, this is a critical feature to have. If you are editing source code in a language like Zig, and you don't have working go to definition, you're losing the game. I would even argue that this should be the case for every language. That being said, I know that some languages are more like, if it's Python, then maybe it's not like, if it's a dynamically typed language, then maybe you can't have it work. Or if it's, I don't know, like C++, what even is the point to look at definitions when nothing makes sense? So there's some caveats, I guess, out there. But go to definition is key. I would also say this. Um, Sometimes people want to learn Zig and they wonder about documentation. And so they tell me, what is the documentation available for Zig? And I always say, go to ziglang.org. Maybe zoom out a little bit so that you don't see the mobile view. You go to learn, and there's the language reference. This teaches you about the language itself. So this doesn't have any information about the standard library, only language constructs. So like for loops, what's abstract, what does const mean, that kind of stuff. And then there's like documentation for the standard library, which is auto-generated. But our auto-generated docs are not yet full-fledged. So like you can see, this is good. Like this thing is good. You can search, it's useful, but it's not perfect. You can also see the source code from here. So you can go to the source code, but again, this is still, I would say, maybe better than POC quality, but this is not yet full-fledged. Okay, so you're looking at something that is not yet complete. But this, and then people say, oh no, then, but without docs, how do you expect me to learn the language without docs? Well, first of all, the language itself does have docs, but the question is the standard library. Like, how do you learn the standard library, what's available in the standard library without good docs? And the answer is you shouldn't need docs because you have, you're a developer, you have the ability to read the standard library source code. Now, we used to have a wiki document on how to read the standard library. I wonder where that went. My editor is flowcontrol.dev. I wonder where did Andrew put that? Man, I hope that this hasn't been like completely lost. Here we don't have a wiki. Do we have a wiki on GitHub? I think we might have lost the wiki on GitHub. Did we? No, we still have some stuff. Okay, so check this out. Oh, wait a second. Is this now part of the README then? Sorry, I haven't looked into where this stuff went. I wonder if it's in the README. Improving translate, see. Testing code. No, it's not in the README. Yeah, I switched to flow control from Helix. I'm using the Helix keybinds. So there's a like flow when you install flow by default, it runs in flow mode, and flow mode is basically Sublime VS Code essentially. But then if you like model editing, which I do, then you can switch to Vim mode, Emacs mode, and Helix mode. And I'm using Helix mode. Helix mode is not complete yet, so if you use it, be aware that there's like some missing keybinds and some things are not like one-to-one yet. But Neurosite has promised to make it better once Flow's version 0.7 comes out, so like soonish. Man, I think we lost that document. That is unfortunate. In any case, we don't have the document anymore, but we used to have a page that basically would explain to you. I need to ask Andrew. It's probably still somewhere. It's just that maybe it's just me that who doesn't know how to find it. Well, we used to have a document that explained that if you want to learn the standard library, you read the source code in the standard library. Not everything will be immediately obvious to you the first time you look at it. Hello, Neurosite. Of course, we talk about Flow and he pops up, huh? What a coincidence. What a coincidence. So it's not like every single part of the standard library will be immediately trivial to you if you're a new user of Zig, but it is extremely reasonably readable. If you're used, for example, like if you have experience with Java or C or even C#, I would say, chances are that the standard library, it's, well, for C# you used to not even be able to look into it, I believe. I think that it wasn't open source in the past. But in any case, it's not something that you're used to thinking that you can inspect and really learn how things are implemented. That's not how it is in Zig. In Zig, you are expected to go read the standard library source code. It will teach you not only how to use the standard library, which is the main goal, and it is doable, but it is also um, um, a way of learning how to write correct Zig, a way of learning how to do certain things, a way of and double checking if your mental model of, you're wondering, should I do this way or this other way? In one of the two ways or both ways involve using one thing in the standard library versus another, and you're wondering, wait, but I don't know which one would be better because I don't know how this thing is done. You can know how that thing is done. You just go to definition. So make sure to have go to definition working in your editor. Don't be afraid to read the standard library source code, because this is something that you should be able to. I know that there are ecosystems where it is rational to not want to read the standard library source code, but it's a problem of those ecosystems. That is not how things should be. So if you're a software engineer, you should consider yourself capable and in some ways expected to be expected that you know how to read the standard library. End of rant. So yeah, go to definition. Yeah, it's awesome. You know what's funny? With Zig, you can also go to definition on C dependencies, and it works. So like you have a C dependency. Let me see if I can show you. Let me see if I can show you with this project. Let me see. Okay, we go into database. We go into SQLite. SQLite are bindings for SQLite. So we look into SQLite. SQLite imports SQLite 3.h. I wonder if we can go into it. Oh, where am I? I'm in the header file. Well, just going into the header file doesn't seem particularly useful, but I want to see, wait, what even is the value of open memory? I just wonder. Boom. Well, sorry, to be precise, when you go into a C definition, you see the Zig translated version. Like this file here is a file that translates the previous header file to Zig syntax. So like these are all the SQLite bind thingy definitions translated to Zig, because this does automatic translation of header files. But then if you want, you can also go into the original header file itself. For example, if something seems funny and you're diagnosing this stuff. So like everything is under your control. You can just go to definition on anything. Nobody can stop you. There's literally nothing that can stop you. You're like the ultimate powerhouse, like you're the anime protagonist. I've been coding for plus 10 years, and I don't think I've ever read the standard library of any of the languages that I've used. That is unfortunate, because it's understandable. Like, I can totally empathize with that. But I promise you that once you unlock that, like once you start having the expectation that that you should be able, like the language that you're using should offer you a standard library that you can easily access and understand, then you will really be way more powerful as a developer after that. I wouldn't be able to go back. Where is your NeoVim config for Zig? I'm not using NeoVim. I'm using flow control, and it doesn't require configuration for Zig. You just need to have ZLS installed, the Zig language server. So what were we doing? We were looking at table definitions. So host So host is basically going to be the equivalent of settings. Actually, you know what? We're copying. We're straight up copying. So this is going to be host. Then we're copying users. Again, we should do code sharing. So I'm kind of making the mistake of not making this of copy pasting stuff, but I just want to make a little bit of progress, and then I'll come back and do the code sharing after we are kind of like after everything has settled, and we're going to do like a refactoring basically pass. So we copy users. We probably want to copy roles as well. Then this is which user has which role. Probably want to have this one as well. Permissions, no. We want to have sections, yes. But we don't want the trigger because we are not gonna have on the client full text search. So that trigger is not necessary. This has to do with, wait, what am I doing? Oh no, sorry, never mind. This has nothing to do with what I described. It has only to do with user permissions and role permissions, which we don't sync in the client. So there's channel. So we have channels. Again, we don't care about permission cleanup because we don't have permissions stored in the client. Messages, there we go. This is the key one. Now, this also implements full text search, but no full text search in the client. So this goes away. And these other things are not really implemented yet for real, so we're going to worry about them when the time comes to flesh them out. Okay, so these are the tables that clients are going to have and that are going to be synced with the server, with the difference that, for example, messages will not contain all messages, channels will not contain all channels, it will not contain secret channels, or rather, sorry, it will not contain all secret channels necessarily. It will contain only the secret channels that you are allowed to see as a user. You will not be told about secret channels that you are not allowed to see. Same with sections and users and roles and user roles. This one is just so that you know you should be. There's no concept of secret users. There's no concept of roles that you're not allowed to know about. So these are gonna stay. This visible flag for roles is more than anything else a. It's kind of like should the role be a category on the side more than anything else. I think we'll see. Maybe it's a stupid idea. We'll see when the time comes. In any case, these are the tables that we create. So we're gonna need to add now code to create all of them, and we don't need to seed them with any information basically. Oh, wait a second. There's one difference. The client doesn't care about the password hash of people. Wait a second. I was thinking that we would have everything be a one-to-one, but you know what? It turns out that password hash is not something that we should be sharing. Huh? 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 Crazy. Kind of an important detail. We could even, you know what? We could even get clever and move passwords to a separate table, which would be slightly inefficient, but it would allow us to share everything more one-to-one. Hmm. Interesting. Well, in any case, so far this is the only difference in schema of these tables that I can think of. Um, huh. Yeah, don't worry. Okay, I'll give me a second. I'll be right back. Just a very quick bathroom break, and then I'm gonna refill my teacup, and then we're gonna um, write the code to start creating these tables. So BRB. Okay, I'm back. Oh wait, the tea. One sec. Okay, I'm back. What am I missing? Where's my piano music? Okay, it's there. Let's see. In a Awebo database, why are you doing a if expressions with an if function and a compile error rather than having an if statement inside each function with a compile error? Um, I don't know. No, I think I do know. It depends. For this function, it would be fine, but there are some other functions that oh, you know what? Okay, this might not be the case anymore, but it used to be until very recently that some of the definitions that I was using in the function signatures were symbols that were only existing in the server code. Like I was importing them from the server code. So I wanted to make sure that the server import would only exist when building the server, and the server import would not exist at all in a client build. What is happening? Wait, what is this discussion? Those compile libraries also need header files. Um, Generally speaking, yes, you want header files. Like you want header files also for DLLs or SO files so that you can know what to find in them, and that can be type checked statically. Yeah, at runtime, you can discover what symbols are in an SO. Actually, I'm not sure if you can iterate over existing symbols. I think probably yes. I don't remember what are all the DL functions that are at your disposal, but I think you can. It's just that uh you want to kind of not have to do that if you can avoid it. Like generally speaking, you want the header file because you want the compile time um type checking. And so it seems like a downgrade not to have that. So is it strictly necessary? No, but it's useful to have either a header file or yeah, I think how Stevie was saying, either that or external definitions in a Zig library. Does Zig build lib output C or Zig header files alongside ESO? It does not output C. Oh, sorry, C or Zig header files. It doesn't output. Well, Zig doesn't have a real concept of header files, so no, it does not output those. And also, if you're using build lib, the reason why you're doing build lib is for interoperability outside of Zig. Like if you were if you were doing like Zig for Zig, you would do a Zig module. You wouldn't do build lib, generally speaking. So you so what I was saying is um I think build lib should also output header files, but I don't know if it does that now. I think it regressed. It used to output C header files. It Then it stopped doing that, and I don't remember if more recently it started doing that again or if not yet. Unfortunately, no type definitions in the SO. Well, yeah, in the SO it's compiled, right? So at that point it's kind of YOLO. Like you have function pointers, for example, and then it's on you to know how to invoke them correctly. So I guess if you really want, you can figure it out. But yeah, it's in theory, if you had documentation, you could do documentation without like read docs without header files, or you can read the source code. You can read the source code of the implementation of that function, and so you wouldn't need a header file. But in practice, so I think with this we kind of got to the bottom of it, right? So it is strictly necessary to have header files? No, but it is very convenient. And without header files, you're like the information is kind of scattered in different places, and it makes it really annoying to do things. A compiled Zig module has type definitions inside? No, a Zig module is not compiled. You don't compile Zig modules. Zig modules exist in source code form. FMIT H, yeah. Okay, so we were saying let's create these tables. I'm gonna copy the code from this guy. Init schema. Indexes. Oh, we have an indexes definition, but there's nothing in them. So let's get rid of indexes, because turns out that every single time I have an index, I ended up placing it in here. So that's fine. Copy this, paste, tables, blah, 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 db.connection, exact no args, fatal db. Do we have fatal db? We have fatal error. Boom. What does fatal db do here? I think we might want fatal db. You know what? Let's gain also fatal db. Okay. Right, because fatal db goes and fetches the last error from the db connection. Okay. So with this we have something. So we can even do this, I think. We can we can do add panic. With this, we should be able to run. Okay, let's fix this stuff. Expected type bool. Expected type bool. Found type info. Oh, the possible error. Well, you know what? I think this can be a panic, or even a catch unreachable. Catch unreachable. It's a programming error for that query to not work out. Okay, do we Zig build? Fatal fetch to the last error. Did it? Oh, you're right. Error union is ignored in load host. Okay. Okay, so this is it. So in theory, we should be able to run the client once and get a empty database that it has been initialized. So let's run the server, run the client crashes. Attempt to unwrap error, parse failed. Um, Parse failed. I think this is because we're trying to access host information, but we didn't initialize our host or something along those lines. I think that if we run it again, we should hit our panic. Yes. So the second time we hit our panic, which we should. Okay. So what happened is that the first round, we were not initializing the header, the memory data structure correctly. So that was causing the error, but that is fine. So now cache Awebo, this is the database file. I think we should give it IE.db extension. Uh, and it does contain indeed our schema. Okay, so we have correctly initialized the database. Let's give it a better name. Alloc print sentinel. This path, yes. And then we do dot db. Origin equals 0 would be no origin. Origin, you can leave it to 0. In this case, it doesn't matter. Origin is supposed to be an ID that is shared between the original request and this reply. In after you're authenticated, you will get replies that might come in out of order compared to when you requested them. And so this origin field is the thing that is used to match them. But in your context, only one thing happens at a time. So yeah, you can leave it at 0. Hmm. How do you handle multiple servers on the same host if the DB file name on the client is only the host name? Um, well, it's not necessarily just the host name, right? If you have multiple servers on the same host, they will have to use different ports. And so the port would become part of the identifier. Something like that. Okay. Um, yeah, it was basically this. Yeah, what's happening is that this guy needs to be respected. How does this work? Give me a sec. Here we do load host. Okay, so let's try again. Now it works. We don't crash anymore because I restored these fields correctly. We got an authentication failure. Why did we get an authentication failure though? Failed authentication attempt for user, nothing. Well, I guess there's more information that we need to restore, which is username and password. Is it everything that is under client that we need to restore, basically? There's a lot of runtime shit. It's okay. Temporarily, let's do this like this. There we go. Now we authenticate correctly. Okay, so this is done. The next step is after host sync, we want to write in the database everything. We want to write everything after host sync in the database. So let's go do that. So in client, in network, at some point we'll receive host sync. So, okay, command Q, put that, fine. So this is the handling function. Core hosts sync. Oh, okay. What does sync do? Gets a host from memory, copies client and identity, or replaces with a new one, copies all the stuff that needed to be preserved back. Fine. But this also needs to update the database. This also needs to update the database. So hey Temporos, well, thank you for stopping by. I got wireless headphones, so I'll be listening at least. Oh, I see. Well, I'll make sure to give a exciting description to the database code that I'm writing, so that you can so that you can be entertained. Okay. How do we want to do this? So first of all, we need to update the database name. Sorry, the server name, because it might have been updated. Then we need to update any message. Keeping in mind that there are older messages potentially in the table that we want to get rid of. And then Yeah, basically we need a piece of code for every one of those tables here. Like there's no escape. I do think that there should be, I think there's a bit of metaprogramming that we could add to make this whole operation nicer. But I don't have the system yet. And I think I'll wait some more before adventuring down that path. So let's do the dumb thing where we just do things, straight up. So let's update the database name, which by the way, right now the database, the entire hosting right now is empty. So I need to make sure that this thing is not phrased as an update, but it needs to be phrased as an upsert. Do we have upserts in SQLite? I would assume so, but I also don't even know the syntax. Oh, there we go, upsert. No, there's not going to be conflicts. Upsert close. Upsert. Wait, you have to have no on conflict? Upsert is a clause added to insert that causes the insert to behave as an update or a no op if the insert would violate a uniqueness constraint. Upsert is not standard SQL. Okay. Oh wait, upsert is not an actual keyword that you use. It's insert where and then on conflict do. Oh. Okay, understood. So upsert is a concept. It's not an actual. I expected that to be a keyword. So insert on conflict, basically insert on conflict key, update on conflict update. Okay. So so query is gonna be insert um insert into host values name comma question mark insert into host values name question mark um no, let me think. The credman. What do you mean by credman? In any case, no. This is this whole thing that I'm doing right now is just for the cache stuff. These databases live under the cache directory and they can be deleted. So they don't contain data that cannot be deleted. Um, so okay, for clarity, the host table is a key value table. So the table has two columns: key, which is unique, and then value. And basically it's a table that is used to write down like a struct, like a database name, database creation date, that kind of stuff. So it's hmm. So that means that we're doing insert into host values name And then whatever value we get, that's the first part of the query. And then we want on conflict on conflict uh, key. That's the column name. Maybe we should specify also the columns. On conflict key, do update, set value equals question mark. We put a where clause then? We don't put a where clause. I think this is the query. I think that's how it's supposed to look like. Okay, so we do this, and then we run the query. h.client.db dot connection exec no args, no exec query values h dot name. Can we do it like this? Does this work? No, I think it's not right. I think this is catch db.fatal. You know what? We should do it like this also. Hello, Zig. Hello. Okay. So this should do it. We can actually test this now. We can test it one query at a time. So we, let me think about it. We remove cache. We run the client. We watch it fail. Variable number must be between 1 and okay. Turns out 0 is not a thing. It's 1. Fine. Try again. No such column name. Should this be a string literal and single quotes? Yes. Double quotes are used for column names. That there's so much weirdness in this query syntax. Holy shit. Okay, so if everything went well, our database should contain banana. Let's go check. Success. We didn't test the upsert. This ended up running correctly as an insert. So we don't know for sure if the upsert works, but yeah. When can we expect Zig 1.0.0 roughly? The general reply is that it's going to be ready when it's going to be ready. So we don't have a specific timeline, and we're not rushing it in terms of like there's a deadline, and then whatever we're going to have ready by then, that's what's going to end up in 1.0. The idea is to get Zig to a completion state where it is kind of done, and then tag 1.0 at that point. Um, so if you want to compare this with, for example, what Rust and Go did, Rust tagged 1.0 very early. The language is still changing today a lot, but they can tag 1.0 because they can provide backwards compatibility. So Rust is very far from being done as a language, but they can provide backwards compatibility, and so they did tag 1.0. That means that it's a type of 1.0 where you do get backwards compatibility. I mean, that is what 1.0 means. That is what 1.0 promises, but it is not its own language, and so um, your knowledge of Rust needs to be updated from time to time. New things get added, new ways of doing things get discovered, and so your knowledge is not uh, gonna be valid forever. Contrast this with Go. Go has been a language that after tagging 1.0 kind of added changes very slowly and very conservatively. So your knowledge, your way of doing Go hasn't changed much in the past, except very recently where they introduced generics. And now with generics, obviously, that's a big change, and you will need to change the way that you approach Go. But before generics, you know, things didn't change too much in the Go ecosystem. They did change a bit. Like the ecosystem as a whole did change a bit, but like the language itself didn't change much. So it was a 1.0 that was like much more conservative in that sense. We are going for something that looks something closer to what Go did than what Rust did. We don't have editions right now. We cannot provide backwards compatibility while also changing the language. Maybe we will add support for something like that in the future. I don't know, but we currently don't have that. And so, in general, the idea is that we're not going to try to tag 1.0 early. Last thing that I will say on the subject is that 1.0 is a very small piece of information that is meant to give you information. Like 1.0 is just a number, and people generally expect that to give them insight into the state of an ecosystem, which is wide and nuanced. And so it's kind of a flawed approach. Like it works, you can do it, but like if you have a reason to consider Zig because you're working in a domain where having a good systems programming language would make a difference, and Zig happens to click for you, happens to work well for you, that kind of stuff, then it is in your best interest to get involved with the development, like learn more about the state of things, read release notes, interact in the communities, because 1.0 is not enough to let you know if Zig is ready for your use case or not. Yeah, once we do tag 1.0, it will, but it is very likely that Zig would have been viable for your use case years before we tag 1.0. For example, there are some companies, as Daniel is mentioning, that already today are using Zig because for their use case, the value that they get out of Zig today is already enough to outweigh, to compensate for all the extra friction that they have because of the fact that Zig is an unstable language because it's still being developed. So, long story short, if you learn Zig and you learn about the state of the ecosystem, you will be able to make a much better choice than what you would be able to do just by observing a version number. That is it. In conclusion. But if Zig is not like that big of a deal for you, and it maybe is something nice to have, but not thing that would make or like change your day, then change your life, then yeah, it's fine. Wait for 1.0. But for anybody that really has a lot to gain from using Zig, you definitely want to be more involved so you can understand better when it's the right time for you. Okay, in any case, we ran one query successfully. Congratulations to me. Next. So we save name. Next is we need to save users. Hmm. Actually, I have users down here, right? Don't I? No, I don't. It's in database. So in users, when will Zig have an official package manager? It already has one. It's Zig build. The Zig compiler itself is a build system, and it is also a package manager. We are not gonna have a separate executable for the package manager, which is kind of weird if you think about it. Like, why is the package manager not the main language compiler itself? Like, why do you need to run a thing with a random name? Why can you just do node install package? You have to do npm or yarn or whatever. Why do you have to run cargo? So we're not gonna have a separate executable. It is part of neurosite. You're having an extreme existential crisis. Yeah, it's been split into the specific types. Don't worry, you can still do metaprogramming. So we already have that. The current version of the package manager, the current implementation, doesn't do version resolution for you yet. So it's not gonna do the thing, well, the usual version resolution stuff. But it turns out that you don't need it if you don't have a bajillion different dependencies. So my point is, you can make do for now. It's fine. It is usable. You can have dependencies. This project that I'm doing right now, check it out. I have a bunch of dependencies. I depend on the VUI. I depend on Opus, Opus Tools, ZQLite, ZigWin32, known folders, Baxes. So I have a few dependencies. Um, I have a few dependencies, and it's fine. So yeah, you can definitely do stuff with it. We will have version resolution in the future. It's just part of being a non 1.0 language. For a beginner like me, Zig provides a single window to learn fully about a new language, whereas I was starting to learn C++, I couldn't find the difference between C23, C++11. It was always an overhead. And we don't have a package index. Yeah, there is no official package index, and there's not going to be one. Okay. Will there be a package doc viewer like Go has? Well, we kind of have the beginnings of it. Zig STD. So you run Zig STD, and it runs the standard library locally. But Zig STD only supports the standard library. It doesn't support random packages. So the idea is to kind of extend this. How precisely, I don't know. I would argue that chances are that it's not gonna work the way that the Go one works. But I think we should have, at the very least, the ability to run docs for the package that you're currently looking, or one of its dependencies. So like if you're in a Zig project, I would expect to be able to do this. Like I'm in Awebo, and so I can do Zig docs, and then I can mention in here one of my dependencies, right? So either Zig docs, and that's it, and then that should bring up docs for Awebo itself, and then otherwise I can do Zig docs, Opus, although Opus is a C dependency, so it doesn't really have docs, but Zig docs, I don't know, DVUI, and so that gives me docs for DVUI. That's how I expected it would work. Users. Oh, users have an auto increment ID. That's something that needs to change. Hmm. Hmm. Okay, let me see one thing and then I'll resume developing. Okay. Okay, so let's start synchronizing also users. Persistence, no. Core, yes. So this is gonna be oof. This is gonna be a thing. So insert into users. We need to agree on the ID. So that means the client really cannot be, well, neither the client nor the server should be auto increment. You know what? I'm gonna take out the auto increment stuff for the client one, but the same is gonna happen to the other one. So this one, primary key, ascending, yes. So ID, created, updated. Uh, Updated roles, I guess. Invited by, power, handle, password hash. We're gonna remove, display name, avatar. Okay. Okay, values are gonna be question mark, 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 question mark. That's delightful query. This is very inefficient. I think we can do much better than what I'm about to do. So what I'm gonna do now is just a straight up for h dot users. Is this a complicated data structure or is it just straight up users? It's a data structure, so it's users dot items. And I'm gonna insert every user one by one. So exec query, and then we do u.id, u.created, u.updated, u.updated roles, u.invited by, u.power, u.handle, u.display name, and then empty string for avatar. I don't remember if we even have that in here, but in any case, we're not really doing images for now, for real anyway. So type array hash map, unmanaged, blah blah blah. Oh, I call them in items, but that is not enough, right? So it's items and then Yeah, this guy has entries. So items dot. I think there's like a list, isn't it? Keys, values, values. There you go. There is no created. Huh. Okay. Then 0, I guess. 0. Invited by. Invited by is a reference, not null. Now that I think about it, do we do it right in the server? Because I think that if we don't have invited by be 0 is a problem. It's a problem. You know what? Whatever works for the server is going to work for the client. So do we have handle? We do have handle. We do have display name. Oh, we do have power. Okay. And apparently we have an avatar, but empty string is fine for me. So cannot bind type power. Yes. Int from enum. Okay. So this is going to save users. Um, let's try it. Brap. No such column key. Hmm. 156. In quarter Zig 156. What? Wait, what are you smoking? Oh wait, 156 is this query. Okay, so source corresponds to this query. This is talking about something called key. Oh shit. All right, what's happening here? No. So this needs to be an absurd. On conflict ID. Oh shit, no man. So this needs to be an absurd, but so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And so do update set. Um don't tell me that I need to type it out. No. Wait, set syntax forces you to use column names? No. Oh, wait, column name list. Column name list equals expression. So wait. So maybe we can do this. Oh man. And then we can do this. Is this going to work? Is this going to work? Set ID probably not wanted. Um, true. Okay, let's try it. Created is also questionable. It is questionable. It is questionable. I agree, but I'm gonna leave it. Fatal DB error, not null constraint failed. Password hash. Wait, where's password hash? I deleted it, didn't I? Bro, why are you scamming me? Okay. I didn't delete the database apparently, yeah. We're in. It worked. Let's look at SQLite. There you go. There's the admin user. Okay, so we synchronize users. We synchronize the database name. We synchronize users. Next is channels. So I'm gonna skip roles for now because I'm just being lazy. Let's do channels next, and then let's do messages. Once we have channels and messages, then we kinda are to the point where we can start working on the proper Delta updates. This is gonna be cool. This is gonna be really cool. And also, I here's what I think. I think that headers on. Yeah, that's nice. Thank you. Uh, that's um that's a good piece of advice. Um, so here's what we need to do. Here's another thing that we need to do. This query is a disaster. Like running this query in a for loop is a disaster. We obviously okay. You know what? I'm actually not 100% sure we're able to, but we kind of would want to vectorize this query, right? We kind of would want to basically be able to do one query where we send over all these things at once. I wonder if it's possible to do that. I know that there's a CRA extension for SQLite that sometimes can help with this kind of stuff, but I'm not sure if CRI would help you in this specific case. It might. If CRA helps us in this case, then what we're going to do probably is also change how we send the data from the server so that it's already basically here's what I'm talking about. I'm essentially talking about a struct of array struct of arrays transformation. But for that to make sense, the database interface has to support that somehow. And it's unclear to me if it does. It would normally. It's the fact that we're trying to combine this with upserts that makes everything weird. So I guess maybe I should read more on this stuff. Parse ambiguity, limitations, history. Upsert syntax was added to SQLite inversion in 2018. Oh, you can also put where clauses. Hmm. Yeah. I'm not sure if this guy. Oh no, you know what? I think it might lend itself to upserts. It might lend itself to upserts. Yeah, I think we would have to think it through. I think this requires some thinking, but it's something that could be done. Okay. So we have this. Let's do channels next. So insert into channels, and then we go into database to see what channels look like. So skip this stuff, skip sections. Oh, sections. We're skipping sections right now because we don't even display sections. So yeah. So channels. ID created, updated section. Oh fuck! Don't tell me section references stuff. Sort, name kind, privacy. Okay, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. On conflict ID, do update. Hmm. Uh, okay. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Okay. So for channels item values, it's channel ID. What's in a channel? Name, privacy, kind. Okay. Everything else is not there. So created, updated, section 0, sort 0, name, name, kind, and that's int from enum, privacy. Okay. Oh, same thing. Okay, these should almost work. The problem is sections because we're not synchronizing sections. And how does this work in the server? Do we have a default section that we create with ID 0? No, because section is null. Because it can be null. On delete set null. We can even, I think we could even give it null as a default. So that's fine. So for section, so created, updated section, null. Okay. Let's see if we synchronize channels now. Uh, Fuck, I did not want to do that. It'll be error out of memory. That's not true. Are we running out? How are you running out? Are we running out of memory? What? Um, we have 15 gigabytes free. Like, what's going on, man? I think that out of memory is something else. It's line 180, right? Oh no, core 135. This is returning out of memory. Excuse me? Pepper. Yeah, this is not Rust. So what are you guys doing here? I don't know. I don't know what you guys are doing here. You're watching me get bogus errors from SQLite. Oh, this time it worked. Let's inspect the database. I start from host, users. That's also fine. Channels. That works. Default chat channel, default second chat channel, default voice channel. So that works. I wonder what the error that I got earlier was. That was really weird. We just got a random out of memory. How did we end up with a random out of memory? Because that's what SQLite returned. I don't know. I guess that's gonna stay as a mystery for a while more. Okay, let's do messages next. And now that we synchronize messages, I think we're gonna be good. Once we synchronize messages. These queries are really ugly though. These queries, first of all, this query is ugly. It seems bad for performance, but also it's obvious that this query should be the result of metaprogramming. I shouldn't have to maintain this query this way. I think that this query should be automatically generated. I think that query should be automatically generated. I'm even starting to think, almost, I'm almost starting to think that the server should send this data not as the in-memory representation of these things. So I'm starting to think that the server shouldn't send to me an in-memory representation of what a user is. I'm almost thinking that it should send to me like almost, not literally, but almost the SQL query to insert it more than anything else. Although in theory, the two representations should be close enough that there's no much of a difference between the two. So like the translation between one another should be trivial. I guess in this case, the mapping, the translation is not trivial because my in-memory representation is missing some fields because I've prototyped the table kinda, but then I haven't updated the in-memory representation. And so I would say that is on me. That's kind of an artifact of the current stage of development. But more than anything else, these irks me. Like this syntax, the fact that you have to do one query per item, it seems horrible. It seems to me that there should be a better way of expressing this kind of in bulk. And I think that this should leverage CRA, the CRA extension. I just don't know yet how. I guess the good news is that after the initial synchronization, you shouldn't be getting like let's say that you're in a server with a ton of users. Even then, these users shouldn't be um, they shouldn't be particularly, there shouldn't be too many that get updated. So yeah. X, select X. I'm not sure what you're referring to X to. Are you talking about a technique that I don't know about? you can insert you can insert a select query, uh, but you can manually make values array for insert. Yeah, so I think this is what I was talking about. This is what the C array extension does well. So let's look at the extension. Where is it? Come on. Hello? I feel like I'm going insane. Where are the extensions? Pragmas, SQL functions, data aggregate functions, window, math, JSON, C++ interface spec. Um, frequently asked questions? No. SQL syntax? No. C++ interface? No. Getting started? No. Features? I feel like I'm going insane. They have extensions. Oh, wait. It's here. I was looking at this thing and I, I forgot to look at this. Oh man. Yeah, we should actually look at the oh, you know what? I have seen all of these, but I might have not have seen all of these. Ah. In any case, extensions. There we go. I've seen some of these though, at least because FTS5 I know about it. Sessions, it allows change to an SQL database to be captured in a compact file which can be reverted on the original database or transferred and applied to another similar database. Huh. Um but most importantly, it's this one, CRA. So CRA, it's basically a way of binding a bunch of values from your like it's basically a way of having an array of values in your programming language that you can get into SQLite as a pointer. So it's not a value that needs to be how can I say, let me see if they have a good example in here. Enable CRA amalgamation, blah blah blah. Multi-argument CRA usage. I was hoping there would be more usage than this, but this is the idea. Basically, you pass CRA of a pointer, and that becomes, I think it becomes a single column table. And the idea is that then you can use it as a table that you can select from, and then you can build a query around it. So what you were describing is something that you can build on top of CRA. And the nice thing about CRA is that it has no cost for sending data to SQLite, because you're literally just sending a pointer, um, which can then be immediately used. So how does this can help? How can this be used for the maximum effect to improve the performance of this query? It's unclear to me at this moment, but I suspect there are ways. Anyway, let's do messages. Or you know what? Since we're iterating already per channel, we might as well put this thing in here, because messages are separated per channel when we receive them. Well, it's a const, so it doesn't matter. So in the message query, this is the interesting thing. For messages, we want to do an upsert as well, because the message might have been modified. And although in the case of a message, I was about to say there are fewer things that can change, but it's actually still a ton. Like a message could be have been reassigned a user. Like if it can, the message can be have been assigned to a different user. The message can have been moved from one channel to another. The message might have been modified its contents. The message might have changed its attachments, although we're not doing attachments right now, so that's not a thing. So, okay. I guess we're gonna copy this and do from insert into messages. Go look into messages, what it looks like. ID, origin, updated. Do we store origin? Do we care about storing origin? We might not care about storing origin in the client. Maybe the origin we get rid of, but another point. Channel. Author. Body. Reactions. I mean, okay, let's ignore this stuff. Values. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Don't joke. I broke too much syntax, and now it doesn't like it anymore. Come on. Oh, it's kind, right? So if ch.kind is chat, or let's look at it like this. If it's not chat, then continue. Ch.kind.chat dot messages. There we go. Messages dot what? What do we do? I guess slices. There we go. Exec message query. Message ID. m.origin. m.updated. There's no updated really in here. Well, 0. Oh, it currently has channel. That's funny. h.id. Author. Oh, sorry. What am I doing? m.author. m.text. Because for some reason I'm using different names for the body. I don't know why. Okay, in theory, this should be better. This should be it. Let's see if we can record messages correctly. We run SQLite. Headers on. Select star from messages. It works. That is indeed the messages that we have. IDs 5 and 6. That is correct. Yes. Any blocker on bulk inserting in a single query instead of executing the query inside a for loop? Yes. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it, especially in the context of a upsert. Because doing a bulk insert would be fine. The problem is that we're doing a bulk upsert here. And I don't know if you can do bulk upserts. So that's something that needs to be investigated. In any case, we have, so we saved also messages. So this is good because now it means that whenever we load for the first time, this data is going to be there. We have not coded correctly the case in which we have this data present on disk. We want to load it. We're not loading it correctly. We're not like materializing in-memory objects for this stuff, which is a problem, which is indeed a problemo. That's what we need to code next, which is going to be kind of the inverse of what we're writing here. And what else? And then what else do we do? Well, once we have also that implemented, then it's a matter of implementing delta updates at that point. Yeah. Okay. So this is not bad. So here's what do we do next now? We can code that. I'm getting close to the point where I'm gonna close the stream. Markcloud is live. Oh, cool. Um, okay, let's take a look at Awebo issues, PRs. Ethernet cable has replied. Let's reply at would you mind letting us know what's the uh in this case? Okay, so hopefully David lets us know, so we do the right thing, and that's it. It looks like authenticate results in authenticate reply, and then hosting. Oh shit! Should be similar for sign up. Good question. I have to think about it. How late do you usually stream? Well, this is 6 p.m., 6:30 p.m. for me, so I usually end around this time here, uh, 7 p.m. my time, so something like that. That's usually my runtime. Okay. So shall we do the other work? Shall we write the inverse queries? Yeah. So let's see. And now that I think about it, you know what's funny? The server has some of this stuff for messages, right? If we go into database, there's a server only function. Maybe not. Maybe it's not in here. It is not in here. It's in message then. In message, no. Then where is it? Don't tell me it's in channel. No. Oh, it's in chat channel. Yes. Chat channel has a server only function for inserting into messages. To be clear though, this is different than what we're doing here. This is slightly different. This is assuming the creation of a new message. This is not inserting in a database a pre-existing message. So it's not an upsert. This is a straight up insert. Hmm. We are clearly in need of some refactoring work that reduces some of the redundancy. But we cannot be brutal about it because there are differences. This insert is different than an upsert in the client. That being said, um, it would be nice that the day that we changed, like that we had a column in messages, like we don't have a bajillion different queries that we need to update. Okay. Also, that being said, the server has code for loading messages. It's in run.zig down here somewhere, there are queries. I just don't know where. Init function, there we go. Select key value from settings, select blah, blah, blah. Select this, select that. Yeah. So we do have this stuff. We obviously need to have one place. I guess message should have functions for doing this stuff. So that you do message dot, I don't know, from DB or something like this. Or like 2DB. Insert, upsert. Yeah, we could do, for message.upsert in the client. And then whenever we create a new message, we do message.insert. And then you pass the DB. So instead of storing these methods inside the DB, we store them into the object. That makes it better in some ways. And to be fair, that is also a good place where we can do slight tweaks between server and client, although we shouldn't go ham on those. We should in general reduce the need for that. I think that is what we need to do. We need to move these things. We need to move these things into the models themselves, I think. Yeah. Okay. You know what? I think I'm going to stop here. I'm happy with the push. We did do some good work. And while I could try to push forward a little bit more, I think this is fine. We made progress. It's starting to get a little bit tired. It's been a 4-hour long stream almost, so understandable. I hope everybody had a good time. So if you're interested in seeing where our attempt to make an open source self-hostable Discord server goes, follow the channel and tune in tomorrow in the next few days. I'm gonna be streaming almost every single day. Saturday, I'm not going to be here because I'm going to be at a Zig Day style event. But setting aside occasional holes, most days I will be around working on this stuff. And I promise you that sooner than later we'll be out of the SQLite, of the SQL mines, and we'll be able to work on cooler stuff. That being said, this might not look like particularly cool right now, but it is part of a series of cool things. Client server synchronization is going to get cool soon because so if you go to the Awebo repository and then open the design directory, there's a document full of typos. This is not like the greatest design document ever made, but it explains how we're going to do Delta updates in the presence of message editing, in the presence of message deletion, because more than anything else, the pressing thing when it comes, sorry, not depressing, but like the space pressing thing when it comes to updating more than anything else, it's updating messages efficiently, because that's going to be the type of resource of which there are going to be a ton of instances of. So this is the thing more than anything else that you want to make efficient. And the reason I haven't been able to implement this algorithm yet because the client wasn't storing anything locally. So if the client doesn't store anything locally, there's nothing to Delta update because you always start from scratch. So that's where we are trying to get to. Anyway, this is it. Let me see if there's anybody doing Zig. People are saying that MatCloud is live, so Maybe we're gonna raid Mudclad. We'll see. Let me see if there's a streams with a Zig tag. There's Ethernet Cable live. There's Iron Beetle live. There's Evil Morty live, apparently. Well, let's do Ethernet Cable. He's doing Awebo. So, I mean, that's an obvious choice, no? Isn't it? So, enjoy some more Awebo from Ethernet Cable. Let's go.